things that impact us don't only stay with us, but they impact the people all around us. In my journey with PCOS, I think the biggest battle I've had is with my personality. As you may or may not know, PCOS, one of the symptoms or struggles that most people have are serious mood swings. And for many years, I've struggled with anxiety, depression, and not being able to be, let's say, more or less balanced in my emotions. No, I'm not saying that I'm crazy, but the reality is it's very difficult to respond, in a gentle manner when there is something within you that, is kind of fighting you. And that is how I constantly feel in this whole situation, as though there's something that's constantly fighting me, even though I'm trying to be gentle, even though I'm trying to respond out of love to the people that I love. Many times I would find, especially in a particular time of the month, I would struggle so much with my mood and with maintaining my temper. Is it an excuse? Of course not. There's no excuse, and we certainly will not use PCOS as an excuse. But there are just some things that, if we know the reason why we're fighting them, I think we have a better gauge of why we're experiencing the things that we're experiencing, and maybe even taking steps to managing them.
My name is Chanel Charles Arthur. I'm a staff nurse. I've been a staff nurse for about 7 to 8 years, and I have been in Barbados for about 10 years, and I'm a St. Lucian basically.
Okay. And you're a registered
nurse and a registered mental nurse. Just finished a diploma in psychiatry. Common endocrine system disorder among women of reproductive age, basically persons of childbearing age, and it is where there's enlarged ovaries. It may not be always enlarged ovaries. It can, basically is a hormonal disorder with insulin resistance. There is symptoms and there is psychological symptoms that makes basically your daily functioning difficult. Some physical symptoms are weight gain, difficulty losing the weight or putting on weight, and like this yo-yo diet effect. Infertility, well, not all women are the same, but basically there is a harder chance at trying to get pregnant. Basically you will take more than 6 months or 7 months and you won't know there is excess facial hair and hair under your chin, hair in places that you never realized before basically. And you get these dark marks on your face or these dark areas on your face. Basically that has a lot to do with the insulin resistance. But basically it's insulin resistance and hormonal imbalance. And there is the enlarged ovaries or fluid-filled sacs on your ovaries that makes it harder to ovulate every month.
So I got married in 2014 and I was diagnosed with PCOS in 2015, I believe, or 2016, one of those times. And I confess that my first reaction with the diagnosis was to ignore it. And as Christians, we like to say, oh, I don't receive that. I don't receive it. So I did not receive it. I ignored the diagnosis. And I just believed that, if I didn't pay it any mind, that would be me rejecting it and dismissing it, and it would not affect my life. But it did. I think about 2 or 3 years, it took me about 2 or 3 years to accept it and not feel guilty about accepting the diagnosis. I think that sometimes as Christians, we feel guilty to accept or to admit that there is something wrong, or there is something, I don't like to use the word wrong, but we feel guilty to accept or to even say to someone that there is something not quite working right in my body, even though I have faith. We think that sometimes it is contradictory to our faith to admit that we are going through challenges. So we keep it all on. Having that diagnosis of PCOS really brought me to a crossroads in my life. As I said, I had that season of depression. Yes, I prayed. Yes, I believe all the prophetic words that came my way. But on the inside, I had the season of why me, God? Why me? What did I do wrong? And how can I still be of value? I confronted it. I had to make some serious choices. It was not always easy, but I had to realize that I had to own who I was and love who I was. Not just my mind, not just my ideas, not just the things that I thought I was good at, my gifts or my talents, but I had to love the areas of me that I didn't want to look at in the mirror. I had to feel good about me. I had to feel good about me physically. I had to feel good about my body. And I had to be able to do so independently of anybody else telling me, Ruth, you look good. Ruth, you beautiful, whatever.
You me that you were, you have PCOS. And can you tell me your journey through that so we can help many of the ladies out there?
2015, and the complications came on back to back, you could say. And from then I realized the darkening area and the mood swings, the depression, just the anxiety. And I was wondering how this tied into my accident. But it's only afterwards I had my symptoms, went to the doctor, and they were saying they were querying that it could be that. And I find that basically around ovulation time you get this mood swings, this depression, and you wouldn't know that it's on unless somebody around you realized that you're actually experiencing it. And the mood swings was really, really affecting me until my husband actually told me that this is what's going on, this is what's going on. The depression wasn't there to a point, but just the mood swings. You'll be happy one time, then sad the next. And it will come on in a flash. It's like a switch that you just turn on. You will feel happy for no reason, sad for no reason. I'm not saying that there aren't other factors that play into your life, but because of the whole serotonin, the neurotransmitter, which affects depression, basically, yes. So the mood swings, the anxiety, the depression. And my research also led me to believe, based on research, that it also is linked to borderline personality disorder. I'm not saying I have it, but I'm just saying that basically you experience those symptoms not knowing that PCOS is linked to all those psychological symptoms at once.
Right.
Yeah. There is one factor that I have realized, basically, there's that based on hereditary factors, if your mother or your sister had it, basically there's a huge or greater chance of having PCOS, or if they have fibroids in the family, there's a greater chance. And I guess during childbearing age, you will realize that it takes a longer while to get pregnant than usual. The weight gain, the dark areas, the depression, the mood swings, and it could be other gynecological symptoms, but it could also be PCOS. So I guess based on these symptoms, you would go to your doctor, they will do the ultrasound, they will do the blood test, and then they would diagnose, basically.
What made me interested in speaking to you was the fact that here was something physical affecting a person mentally. So as we look at women where you're looking at the ovaries, the womb, that any complications there, because of the hormones, it could affect your behavior.
For me, managing my mood looks like spending time in the presence of God. Renewing my mind according to scripture that all things have become new, and I am believing that even in that area of my life that things are going to be made new. Is constantly bringing that part of me under subjection. A lot of praying into the reasons I'm having the emotions, forgiving people, forgiving persons for who might have hurt me in the past and stuff like that. So I dig into my emotions. I even do counseling at sometimes, like if I need help managing or understanding a particular situation, and then I cry out to God a lot. Like if I am really having trouble every month at this particular time, I try to go ahead of that time, recognizing that this is the issue that I will have, and I will also pray ahead of that situation. When I remember, I can't say that I am always on the ball, but when I do catch it, maybe I might catch it at the beginning or in the midst of it, but when I recognize what's happening with me at that particular time, I bring that time to me, whatever the enemy is seeking to use as a trigger, I try to bring that thing under subjection. That really helps me to manage my emotion.
Having children, it has always been a desire of mine, and the fear of not having children has been there for quite some time as well. I know that my husband desires to be a father as well, and so I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself, or a lot of pressure came on me when I received the diagnosis and realized that, okay, so we've been trying for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And the interesting thing that happened is that around the time that I received the diagnosis, persons that were in our circle were getting pregnant. And they were, asking us to be godparents. And I was there thinking, like, God, how is this happening for other people and not for me? And it became a very ticklish thing that you, on one hand, are very happy for your friends, genuinely happy for your friends, but then you are still nursing some measure of disappointment and hurt. What I have had to do is to be intentional about my mental health. I pray a lot. Sometimes I go to sleep listening to music or listening to the scripture just playing in the background. I isolate a lot in terms of, I have myself moments. I have moments where I might just get up and drive off in a car, and go stare at something, beach, trees, whatever, and just try to get my mind right. And I also try to let persons know how I'm feeling rather than carrying them around. So if I feel like I'm talking to my doctor and my doctor is not listening, I'm going to sit, and this has legit happened, sit down and write my doctor a nice long letter letting him or her know how I feel. I do it with my husband, I do it with whoever, just allowing, don't carry it around, just let persons know this is how I feel. To read up on it, as I said, when I got to the stage of accepting, I started to read up on it. I talked to my doctor about it some more. Later on, she would recommend me to a specialist. I joined Facebook groups that, where they were basically get into a community where you could hear other person's challenges, and then you realize, hey, I'm not the only body going through this.
So the cash could harm your relationships then?
Yes, please, and your daily functioning. Like if you're working, if you have a stressful job, it makes things really, 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 really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please. I will just say that I won't jump into the treatments and how to help, but it first starts with identifying the problem. You have to realize you have a problem. You have to be honest with your spouse or your family, and I guess you could talk to them and they will offer
significant coping strategies was for me to get dogs. Yes. Now, before I got my dogs, I was not an animal person, but I went to St. Vincent a year. The host family I was staying with, they had dogs, and I found that I was just so drawn to the puppies. I would go out and play with them every day. And I came back home from St. Vincent and I said to Rodney, I'm getting a dog. And but he's a dog person. I was always the person that would say, no, I don't want any dogs. But so he was, what? What changed my mind? So not only did we get a dog, but we got 2 dogs. And I found loving these dogs, taking care of these dogs, not that I saw them as children, but in a way they provided me an outlet to share love. And also, if you're animal lovers, you know that animals, they love you unconditionally. So I think that really helps me to cope a lot, and it also brought a measure of, I don't want to say healing, but it helped us as a couple to cope with our own individual hurts or disappointments where infertility was concerned.
It's so difficult to keep your weight down. And I feel like I have been fighting this battle from so many different directions. And, the whole hormonal imbalance can keep you in a state of tandem where you're constantly yo-yoing. Your weight is up, your weight is down, your weight is up, your weight is down. And it's been such a difficult journey in terms of having managing your weight and everything. And that impacts how you feel about yourself. It really does impact on your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror, the physical body that you're able to see, because that's the first thing that we encounter. We don't encounter our spirits first. We encounter our bodies. And you look in the mirror and you see this big tummy in front of you. It has been a real struggle managing weight, having to constantly be on some kind of program, some kind of weight management process, and you feel as though defeated, as though there are so many people out there who can eat as they like, they can enjoy their food, and you are constantly struggling with weight.
I have found that diet, basically a low carb and a high protein diet, basically the main goal is to get off the excess fat around your middle, basically, and you can have a low carb, high protein diet with enough lean meat, enough fish, forget the accent, a lot of fish, a lot of protein, basically. Also, bananas really help. It isn't also only research, but it is proven. I have tried it. Bananas give you this happy, excited feeling, basically. Also, supplements, I have found that omega-3, inositol, and vitamin D really help with how it basically improves your
biggest strategies is maintaining my health. My health is so important to me, and not using a lot of sugar and things that contribute to insulin resistance, because that's one of the issues that you might have with PCOS. You would have insulin resistance, and so I try to avoid sugars as much as possible. I mean, it becomes very difficult around period time, and let's be honest, because we have those cravings for sugar and stuff like that. What I've been doing is engaging the services of Indulgence to Cheat, and even though I might not be doing a ketogenic diet anymore, what I would do is still try to keep my desserts and so on the lower spectrum, or the lower glycemic spectrum. That helps to really manage those cravings at the end of, or at the beginning of the month, and you still get a sweet treat. I'm not always able to do it. It really depends on finances, and so that takes planning, that takes organizing and making sure that you are prepared. I also try to exercise regularly, and these things might become cliche, but really and truly maintaining a really healthy lifestyle really helps you to manage any sort of imbalance.
Boost your mood. Basically, therapy is just to get your mind off the symptoms. They're there, they exist, they're going on, but to take your mind off the symptoms, to make you feel good, it starts with you. Basically, if you're not right mentally, you cannot focus and carry out your daily functions. And I find what works for me, because every person is different. Music really helps, and just taking time to distress, going to the beach, feeling the wind through your fingers, your hair, just reading, and I really love it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Being a Christian, how has that helped?
After my accident, I gave my life to God again in 2015. I don't remember, but I'm happy that I did. And I find with prayer, I won't say the symptoms decrease, but talking to somebody else higher than me about my problems helps me to center myself and come back to gravity, and just know that I am not alone in this fight. I may have my husband and my friends and my family who support me, but just talking to God about those problems helps me to cope with them.
So pray, affirm yourself a lot. For some people, it may be journaling, it may be reading, it may be drawing, or doing something that you can divert your energies to, something positive, not toxic habits, but something positive, a positive outlet. And the last thing is having a circle of persons that can encourage you. And when I came to the point of acceptance and being free to share, not just having PCOS, but sharing with persons who may have had a miscarriage, or a stillbirth, or fertility issues resulting from another condition. I found that when I started to share, there were other persons that also opened up about their raw feelings as well. And so being transparent with other persons and sharing, I think that has helped a lot.
You know, we might not see how managing my emotions and my spirituality might be connected to PCOS, but you know, at the deeper root, I believe, of managing the mood swings is dealing with the emotions that arise out of those mood swings. I believe that we have triggers, and if we attend onto the triggers, it will be better for us in managing the situation, as opposed to, you know, headed towards a blow up, you know, as opposed to really giving into that whole situation. It's just managing what's happening in the scene, behind the scenes, in our emotions prior to the event, that we don't have to really truly, you know, blow up in a situation. So as opposed to focusing on managing, you know, not having mood swings, because that may or may not happen, I can manage my response in a situation, and that kind of mitigates what happens, that I don't continue in that process of harming my family.